edge cliff in terms of the possibility of America sustaining itself as a social experiment in the best sense, or just becoming an empire full of might and force. So when you niggerize a whole country, you start treating all of your citizens the way black folk have been treated for 250 years. So when I see the police killing these two precious folks, Sister Renee and my dear brother Alex, and I've had so many partners killed by the police growing up on the chocolate side of town, right? What has been the response? Thank God for Martin King. How do we learn how to love in the face of this hatred? How do we learn how to fight for freedom for everybody in all parts of town in the face of all of this terror? And America now has the blues. If you don't learn something from the best of the blues people, we're going to lose the democracy. So this is not just about meticulous details. We're talking about something huge at stake.
It does seem that we are at a critical moment where there's a real question about whether ICE needs to be reined in. That's a question being asked by Republicans and by Democrats. And if so, how? Let me play what Elizabeth Warren said about what Democrats need to do in this moment.
Democrats are ready to rein in this rogue agency, but we need Republicans in Congress to stop this violence as well. And I know that there are Republicans right now who are seeing what we're seeing in Minnesota, and they know it is wrong. It is time to speak out. Silence is complicity. Grow a spine, show some backbone. Being disturbed doesn't change anything.
Some Republicans are speaking out, whether it's Tom Tillis or that candidate who was running for governor in Minnesota who dropped out of the race over this issue, to the top appropriator in the House who's basically saying, yeah, we do need to reset the situation. Is that right? Is that the right place to be right at this moment? I mean, do we need to rethink what ICE is really doing in the streets of America?
Well, clearly, the president thinks there needs to be some recalibration, right? He replaced the leadership in Minnesota with Tom Homan, a change of sort of the direction at the top. You saw him pull back and ask for these DHS agents to be investigated. Ultimately, though, the president's goal, and I think Tom Homan's mission, is to get compliance in the jails, in the system, in the prison system in Minnesota. Right? This is not a crisis of anything but a crisis of cooperation, where for the most part you have other states where the number of ICE detainees is 10, 11, 12 times higher than in Minnesota, where there is zero incident. Texas, more than 10 times more ICE detainers in Texas, yet zero incidents. No one's getting shot.
There are 200 undocumented immigrants, non-citizens, in Minnesota prisons. Is that what you're talking about?
1,361 detainers.
Okay, that's
of people that were actually arrested at some point and then released. I'm not saying who's in jail
what
now.
exactly do you want the governor to do? You want the governor to go to those people's houses, take them out of their homes, and hand them over to ICE?
As they
what
were
would
arrested,
you like them to do?
An ICE detainer means as they were arrested.
Over the course of what period of time?
Over the past
Joe?
year, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I mean, don't you think that's relevant information?
It's working in Texas.
1,300. Hold on.
In Texas, they got 17,696.
I'm just concerned about the factual information here. You're talking about a list of 1,300 people. There are only 200 non-citizens in the prisons. The Hennepin County Jail, which doesn't cooperate with ICE, has a max capacity of about 600 people. So where are these 1,300 people? How long has it been since they've been in some form of prison? And what exactly do you want the Governor Walz to do about
I'm more familiar with here in New York, just being a New Yorker. Rikers Island has about 3,000 people at any one time.
Yeah, but I'm talking about Minnesota.
In the course of a year,
what do you want
30,
the governor to do?
people go through a jail.
Do you want the governor to go door to door and pick up people who had committed crimes years ago?
Now, let's understand that there's a difference between state prisons and the county jail.
Yes,
okay,
but I think my point is, here's my point, real quick. This is important. You can't throw out that number and say, there are 1,300 people that are in prisons and they won't let them have it. That's actually not true at all.
There are 1,300 people who were at one point detained by the police departments in Minnesota.
At what point?
At some point, I forget when the statistics
could have been 10 years ago, could have been 20 years ago. Let's
go to my statistic. In Texas, in this year, 17,696 people who were in police custody at one point were transferred to ICE.
Listen,
the state of Texas, the localities of Texas honored the ICE detainers, and 17,000 people were detained without incident.
Hold on, I just want to know.
Without incident.
Of the people with detainers, Are they currently in custody of the state?
At some point, these 13,000,
because that would be super important if the argument is that.
Don't you understand? They were released. The whole freaking point is that these people were released.
Hold on a second, Joe.
You understand, right?
Don't get all worked up.
These people were here illegally, committed some crime, and then they were released.
Joe,
that's why they're not in prison.
Don't get all worked up. All I'm asking is,
you're arguing that they're not in prison. I'm saying that's right. They were released. They should have been detained by ICE.
Hang on a second. Hang on a second. The state prisons. All right. Hold on. The state prisons, which holds a vast majority of people who committed crimes.
After they've been convicted.
Yes, which is a due process. If you've been convicted of a crime.
And ICE detainer happens at the time of arrest in the county jail.
Hold on a second, Joe.
Yeah.
Just give me 1 second.
Okay.
In the state prisons, they work with ICE. So when you have committed a crime and you are convicted of that crime, they will call ICE and say, hey, this guy is in here. They're about to get out. Come and get him. So that is happening. The question I'm asking you is that if you are arguing that the rationale for this show of force is because the state is not cooperating with getting people who are in prison into the hands of ICE, you have to actually prove that those people are in custody. And you can't do that. And neither can the Trump administration, because many of them, most of them, are not actually in custody. And they would have to do the very same thing that they are doing right now. They would have to go out and conduct targeted raids. And if they were to do that, no one would be complaining about that.
You gave an incredible speech about prison, right? We're talking about jails, people who are detained by police.
I am also talking about jails.
You said 300 people are in prison.
There are 600. There's the maximum capacity in Hennepin County.
Do I get a chance? So there's
600 people. Where are all the people coming from?
1,361 people were issued ICE detainers in Minnesota and then were released by